everyone, and welcome to Scicomm Monday. I'm your host, Nicole Wood. For those of you who are new to the broadcast, we try to make this as engaging a platform as possible, so please feel free to send in any of your questions that you have during the broadcast via the integrated chat module on Periscope. And if you're watching this on replay, or if we just aren't able to get your questions to get to them today, please feel free to tweet us at our various handles. You can reach me either at the Scicomm Monday handle or at my personal handle of Wildlife BioGal. So today we're going to be having some fun and broadcasting live from New Zealand with Melissa Márquez. She's going to be giving us a tour of the Bait House Aquarium in Wellington, which is on the North Island, but at the very southern tip of the North Island. Rumor has it we can see the mountains on the South Island today, so we'll see if we can actually get those to turn out. And she's also going to give us a slight tour of the tide pools, but apparently it's high tide, so we'll see how much we can see with that. But if you want to be able to reach Melissa during the broadcast or afterwards via her Twitter handle, you can reach her at MCMSharkXX for reaching her with that. So I'd like to introduce Melissa to the broadcast. Thank you for coming in. It's a little cold down there today, which most of us don't really think about when we think of New Zealand, of how cold it actually can be.
Yeah, it's near Antarctica, so it gets pretty cold. My kid brother was making fun of me actually the other day, being like, it's not cold like New York. And I'm like, no, it gets cold. So we right now are having what's called a southerly, which is weather from Antarctica coming in. So it gets quite cold. It is a high of 46 right now, which is why I have like 6 layers on and my very wonderful shark hat on.
Very so appropriate for today, I have to say. So.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely thought of that when I was coming in. I'm like, shark hat keeps head warm and is also a fashion statement. There we go, we're great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sporting my NAOC shirt today, so I mean, we always have to like represent as much as we can. So.
Exactly. So I'm very excited to show you guys New Zealand. The island is actually just waking up. We're just right now having sunrise, so the sun is waking up with us. Because it is winter, it is quite dark in the morning. So let's see if we can possibly see those mountains you were talking about. Might not be able to see it just because it's really, really over there, but you can see some of the snow, at least to the naked eye. But the South Island is in that area. It's not that far away. It's only like an 8-hour ferry ride from here. So it's very, very close, and it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at this area. Like, that's, yeah, one of the main reasons why I fell in love with New Zealand was its gorgeousness.
Yeah, it always seems like, coming out of New Zealand, there's so many beautiful pictures of all the variety of different, ecosystems that you have there, and the amazingness of all the different animal species that you have there. So it's like I'm very jealous of where you're at right now. Even though it is cold, I'm still very jealous.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't be jealous about the cold. But yeah, it's definitely very unique because New Zealand is kind of stuck at the bottom of the world. It does share a few animals with Australia and the greater Pacific area, but mostly the animals are endemic, which means you can only find them here in New Zealand. So I'll be showing you guys a few of them at the aquarium that I work here in Bait House. But yeah, so lots of really cool stuff over here, from birds to fishes to even tiny little bugs. So very excited to show you guys just a part of what makes New Zealand so unique.
Great. Yeah, we're all definitely looking forward to anytime we can actually see real animals and stuff. I mean, it is amazing as to be able to talk with researchers anytime we can actually see what it is that they work with. And I mean, because we're all science geeks and animal geeks, and we all love being able to see all that. So
oh yeah, definitely, I feel the same exact way. There's a difference between talking about an animal and actually seeing the animal you are talking about. So we've got some really cool treats for you guys. We've got an octopus, a common octopus here in New Zealand that is endemic to New Zealand. You can only find it here, who is pregnant with over 1,000 eggs. And they're going to hatch any day now. I've been posting them on my Twitter handle, so you might see a few of them there. But hopefully we'll get some good close-up shots for you guys to see them wriggling about. We've got a carpet shark, and her name is Isabella. She's one of my favorites. I take care of her along with the help of the volunteers here, and we'll be feeding her for you guys. So you're going to see me shoulder deep in very cold water towards the end of this podcast, so you can see how cool it is, her feeding. She likes to fish, so we're getting some of that stuff prepared right now as we speak.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely really excited about that. So before you take us inside the tour for all the amazingness in the aquarium, why don't you tell us exactly what brought you to New Zealand besides the absolute beauty of the country?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I'm originally from Puerto Rico and Mexico. I moved to Florida after moving a bunch of other places, and that's where I did my undergraduate degree in marine ecology and conservation at New College of Florida. And so from there, I decided to apply for a scholarship to a master's degree here in New Zealand. And I didn't think I was going to get it. I actually, kid you not, applied as a joke. I was like, I like New Zealand, sure. I mean, I doubt I'm going to get it, but why not? And the person who contacted me was my going to be advisor. And he's like, you've made it to the next round. Are you still interested? And I'm like, yeah, but still I didn't think I was going to get it. And I went on a week-long Bahamas trip to go shark diving with Jim Abernathy, who's a big shark conservationist and photographer. So I went with him and I messaged them being like, hey, I'm going to be here for a while. I'm still interested though, just to let you know. And when I got back onto land, I got an email saying, at 4 o'clock, I got an email saying, you got it. And I was like, holy crap, are you kidding me? And so just a few months later, I packed up my bags, left Florida when it was 100 degrees, and landed in New Zealand when it was like 50. So yeah, I came over here. I just finished my master's degree this past December at Victoria University in Wellington, which is the capital of New Zealand. It's New Zealand is broken up into 2 main large islands and then a few other little islands, but Wellington is the middle of the 2 islands basically. So it's the southern tip of that northern island. And I studied deep sea chimeras. If you don't know what chimeras are, they're actually a relative of the sharks. So sharks are related to the skates, the rays, and the chimeras, and collectively they're called the chondrichthyans. So I studied their habitat use, looked through some fisheries data and some bycatch data. Bycatch is the stuff that the fishermen don't want, and they either throw overboard or they collect to do some samples on, and figured out where exactly these animals are in relation to the fisheries. And so graduated with that degree in December and have kind of been gallivanting around New Zealand saying, I don't want to go home just yet. And have been working here with the aquarium now for a few months, since the beginning of the year, actually.
Great. Yeah, I don't think anyone can blame you for wanting to stick around there because, I mean, it does, it's like I said earlier, like it seems like every picture that comes out of New Zealand is absolutely gorgeous. It just makes you like want to, add New Zealand to one of your bucket list kind of destinations when you think of places you want to travel to in the world. I think a lot of folks have New Zealand on there.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. If any of you guys ever come down, you've got a friend in me. Come on down. It's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. The pictures don't do it justice, to be honest. There are some bits that I'm like, it looked better in real life than the picture, even though the picture's really nice. But no, it's absolutely gorgeous here, especially here in Island Bay. I mean, I'll flip it over so you guys can actually see it. I get to come and work and see this all the time. And you'll see the weather fronts come in. You'll sometimes see pods of dolphins or whales come in. We'll get sea lions sometimes over here. It's beautiful when it's sunny. It's beautiful when it's really, really rainy and gusty. So no, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. So I'm very, very lucky to call New Zealand my home.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you really can't complain about having that kind of view every day when you go to work. I mean, I love West Michigan, and it's, just as, beautiful because I love being able to look out onto, one of the Great Lakes. It's only an hour away from my hometown. And so it's just one of those natural treasures. And anytime you can be close to something like that, you're just a very lucky person, especially when it comes to science, that's what you get to go play in.
Yeah, exactly. And this area actually is a reserve, so it is protected. So you do have some fishermen that go out past the reserve and whatnot, but we do have a snorkeling trail out here that people like to take advantage of. You can see Paua, which is abalone for us back in the States, and they're massive. I'll be able to show you guys some of them here, but they're absolutely just going under the water here is beautiful. They've got kelp here that is taller than I am, which to be honest isn't that much of a feat since I'm only 5'1". But to me, it's like, oh wow, this is massive. Coming from Florida, you don't really get kelp. So to me, being surrounded by it and being surrounded by critters that you see in the Pacific, which the West Coast would be used to, but not so much the East Coast, it's really, really interesting. So I'm learning something new every day.
Right, or for those of us on the fresh coast, we definitely don't get any of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I remind everyone if they have any questions to send them in via the chat module here on Periscope, and we'll do our best to get them ferried over to Melissa, because with the way that we're doing the broadcast today, she can't see any of the comments as they come in. So, but yeah, I'll go ahead and let you take it away if you want to go ahead and start showing off all the amazingness, because I'm sitting here going, yay!
Yeah, well, actually, I'll poke around first in the tide pools to see if there's anything. Like we said earlier, it is high tide. I believe it's going to start going away soon. But I'll see if there's anything interesting up on the rocks. Sometimes we do get some really cool things like dead pufferfish and whatnot.
Ooh.
So, yeah, a few weeks ago, we actually had some blue bottles. So blue bottles would be Portuguese man-of-wars.
Okay.
Over there as well. So let's see what we've got.
Yeah.
I can't promise anything super, super cool, but...
Well, that octopus you found the other day was absolutely amazing. As I was saying earlier before we actually went live, my jaw literally just dropped as soon as I saw that photo that you posted up. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was something that even we were kind of astounded. The stuff that we get here sometimes, I swear, these gulls. The stuff that we get here sometimes is just absolutely beautiful. As you can tell, they have decided to bombard the podcast.
Well, they're just adding to the ambiance, giving us the
really
full New Zealand experience.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, to be honest, I'm still having a hard time being okay with, like, seabirds in the cold. Like, seeing seabirds in a city is very interesting for me. So, I'm still getting used to that.
Yeah, in Michigan, especially up at Central Michigan, where I do my work, it's amazing how long the gulls will stick around in the middle of nowhere when you think, well, they should be out by the Great Lakes, but no, here they're right in the middle of Michigan, hanging out in our parking lots. So.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some of them. We do have Burger King and McDonald's, by the way, over here, and quite a few of them love Burger King and McDonald's, specifically the boot-shaped nuggets.
Oh.
So, yeah, they can get vicious when they want to be. So don't feed the birds.
So while you're walking around looking for stuff, what's the most interesting animal that you found while you're out searching the tide pools?
What's the most what?
Interesting animal that you found while you've been searching the tide pools.
I would have to say probably that octopus, to be honest. However, we did have a dead pufferfish not too long ago that washed up, and we were all like, oh, okay, interesting. That's something that you normally don't get. Mm-hmm. But the octopus the other day, which I'll repost on my Twitter account, is probably the coolest thing that we've seen so far. And we didn't even find it. A kid came over and was like, we found an octopus. And usually that means that they found like a piece of kelp or something that looks like an octopus. And we were like, all right, we'll go see. And sure enough, here's this very angry looking octopus being like, please leave me alone. I'm like, oh, yes, nobody poke it, leave it alone. Yeah, it just seems like it's too high of a tide for anything cool to be out right now. I think everything's also asleep. It might be your Monday, but it's our Tuesday. But man, does it feel like a Monday. Oh, for those also who don't know, like I said, it is morning. It's like our 8 o'clock in the morning. So it is very much start of the morning for us. Nah, it doesn't seem like we have anything too cool right now besides the regular kelp and little snail critters, but we do have basically our own little tide pool area in the touch tank, so I can actually bring you guys in to the aquarium right now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, before I do that, I want to, ooh, sorry, my hand's been in front of that the whole entire time. Sorry about that. Before I do that, I do want to introduce one of my lab helpers. This is Eddie. Eddie, say hi. He also has a shark hat. So Eddie does help me over here in the lab. He's the know-all, basically. He knows everything about New Zealand fish and basically anything, including making really, really good New Zealand food for me. So Eddie will be helping me out today. If there are any questions that I don't even know, I'll just be like, Eddie. So Eddie was really nice. He helped open the lab for me and got everything ready for Millie. Or not Millie. Oh my God, even I'm calling her Millie now. Isabella. And so we're going to bring you over to the touch tanks and stuff right now and to the aquarium. So I'm actually going to move this over so you guys can come on in. So usually during the week, we are closed so we can have schools and stuff come in. And on Sundays, it's open to the public, which is why you usually see me tweeting it, which will be your guys' Saturdays. But this is our tiny little aquarium. And so it is the only aquarium in Wellington area, and which is why it's so popular for people to come in during the Sundays. But see, we have our own little tide pool, which is a lot cooler and more teeming with life. So one of the really cool things that I always like showing off to the kids, we'll see if we can find one that's kind of open, is, yeah, we can just take that one. So that kind of looks like a pile of goo, doesn't it?
Yes, it totally does.
Yeah. So what it actually is if you can see right there in the mouth, that's actually an anemone. So it's called a wandering anemone. It's closed up right now. I'll see if I can find an open one. But it basically just, it can actually pick itself up and then with the currents move around, kind of like Eddie is showing right now, which makes it a lot of fun for the kids. And it doesn't feel like anything. You would think it kind of feels like Jello in a way, but when it's out, it much does. When you put it back in the water, it doesn't feel like anything. Like you're not touching anything, which is really, really weird.
They're 90% water.
Yeah, they're 90% water, as Eddie just said. So you can kind of see the little tentacles coming out. It's really fun because then you stick in your hand, and they'll hold on to you because they think you're food.
What do they normally eat?
We feed them mussels here, but they can, it's anything like other anemones where they can feed on small fish and whatnot as well.
And also what's pumped in the water column.
Yeah, and what's pumped in the water column as well.
Okay.
So, not something you usually see over in the States, that's for sure. Oh, there you go. You can kind of see its little tentacles coming up. Now, I want to know if you know the name for this one. It looks pretty familiar. It's one of the things that we kind of have over in the States, but sort of in the deep water.
Oh, I know I should know this, but it's been so long since I've done anything with like marine species at all. I'm so like ingrained in Great Lakes stuff right now. It's like as soon as you say it, I'll be like, oh yeah, duh, but I can't remember.
So this is, for us back in the States, is known as a brittle star.
Oh, I should have said it. I knew it, and I was too afraid. I so became that undergrad in class where like if I say it live on air, it's like everyone's gonna like know that I said the wrong thing, and I was like, no, I totally should have just gone with it and been like bold, like I've learned to be in grad school, and I just totally like let go of it all.
Yeah. No, so we know it as a brittle star over there, but over here it's known as a snake star.
A snake star?
A snake star. Yeah, it's those common names, man. They just mess you up. Mm-hmm. Everyone keeps telling me that, and I'm like, brittle star.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it totally makes sense. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, the legs or arms are totally kind of moving like snakes, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, look at this little one go. Like, they're fast. They're very, very impressive with how fast they are. So it's always cool to show off to the kids and be like, look, this is a sea star. And they're like, what? That's not a starfish. Now we've got another really cool one that Eddie's got over here. It's absolutely massive.
Nice.
Now, I'm not sure if we have it in the States, just because sea stars are not my forte. But can you guess what this one is?
Oh, I feel like I've read a paper about them back a long time ago, but I can't even remember what the name is, like, when it comes to it.
So this
Oh,
one,
I feel like I
actually,
need to
you
like
can
go
just-
watch a whole bunch of Discovery Channel specials now or something.
Just watch Blue Planet. You'll be fine. So this one's called the 11 arm because it does have 11 arms. And so they're pretty voracious predators too. I mean, they move fast. You can maybe see this one over here. This little tubular feet over there.
Oh yeah, that's coming through pretty clear. Wow.
Yeah. So they move quite quickly. It's really fun to like have them on your hand and then them move around. All right, this one, you gotta know this one. This
Oh,
one people step on in the beach. It really hurts.
an urchin?
Yeah.
Yay! I
So
actually
over
finally
here-
remember something. Yay!
there we go.
Yeah,
You'll get points
you
for
can't
that.
tell
You'll
I
get
spent time growing up on like the Atlantic Shore, on in Georgia, and then another 4 years in Hawaii. Yeah, that's not coming through very well at all.
Well, when you've been away from it, I totally understand that. Actually, hold on. Look at those tubular feet again. That's really cool.
Oh wow,
But
yeah,
yeah,
look at it
so
go.
this one over here is the sea urchin over in the States, but over here it's known as the kenna. So I think it's K-E, right?
K-I-N-A.
Oh, K-I-N-A. There we go. K-I-N-A.
Local delicacy.
Yeah, so people do eat it over here. I hear it's very yummy. I haven't tried it yet.
Do they just
need
like
to-
eat it straight up, or do they like serve it with anything? Do you know?
I think what they do, at least from some of the recipes that I've heard, is they will kind of grill it up a little bit with some peppers, some soy,
Butter.
butter, garlic, and then you can kind of just eat it there. It's apparently really, really soft and yummy. So, and you can kind of see it's just moving off of Eddie's hand. Like Eddie's
Alright.
not moving it at all. It's just chilling. Like this one here was upside down a few seconds ago. Look at it.
Wow.
That's
Yeah, and you can really
nuts.
see the tube feet going out on that.
Yeah. No, these move fast.
Do you have any of them that ever like are able to like get out of the tide pool that you have there?
We have them kind of climb up the sides of the tanks, and you'll see us kind of like pushing them back down, being like, no, don't come out. Like this one here is gonna probably, actually that one right there is like, hello. So we've got a few there, we've got a few over here, and actually this next one will be really cool to show off. No, the sea cucumber.
Oh, nice.
So we've got tons of sea cucumbers over here, and they feel very squishy, and they're very bumpy. Ah, yes, Eddie has a nice big one there.
Wow.
They do remind kids of certain things, which is why they usually laugh when they see a sea cucumber.
Yeah, I have a 9-year-old nephew and a 7-year-old niece, and I definitely can tell you they would be cracking up right now.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what we usually get with the kids over here. We just got a really, really tiny one about, like, the size of my pinky nail there. His nickname is now Little Turd. So, yeah. And that was done by adults. So, clearly you can see we have all not outgrown that at all.
Right.
But, yeah, so this touch tank is where we usually have the kids and allow them to gently touch the animals while keeping them in the water to, kind of get that tactile learning with them, because it's really important for them not to only see the animals but also to realize, okay, this is, they're not scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important to kind of get through to them being like, this is the only place where we really want you to touch them. Out there it's kind of a no-no. These are we call them ambassadors for their species. These are the ones that are out there, have decided, hey, I'm gonna talk with the humans and kind of show them who we are. So for a lot of kids, these are the first times they see a lot of these animals. And this will probably be the first time a lot of you guys see the next thing that I'm going to show you, which is our famous octopus, Octomom. So
Oh, wow.
Octomom has her own Facebook diary. So we do have a Facebook page, and she has the Octomom diaries. You can kind of see her right now. So all of this are the eggs. These are about 1,000 eggs, and you can kind of see them. Let me see if I can find them here. A good like stash of them. There we go. So you can kind of see them a little bit there. Now the black thing that you guys are seeing, those are the eyes of the octopuses that are being born. And then the orangey bits are going to start being their heads soon.
Okay.
And then,
Chromatophores.
yeah, the chromatophores. And so you can kind of see her up here kind of going through and gently massaging them. So the reason why this tank is especially crummy is because, you know, she's been pregnant for a while. She's a little bit stressed, and we don't want to stress her out anymore by going in and cleaning it. Not to mention there's actually eggs not part of that main cluster that are actually around like in this area too that we don't want to accidentally knock off. So we try to keep clear of her. But she does sometimes come over this way if you give her enough attention. The funny story with this octopus is, and if you watched the TEDx Wellington live stream, which I'll talk about that experience in a little bit, the guy who introduced me brought this up. She actually bit me in my hand. She doesn't like females at all. She loves Eddie. Oh my God, does she love Eddie. But she does not like females. And so she bit my hand. And this was the same hand that I got bit by a scorpion about like 3 or 4 years ago. And their beak has a low bit of toxin that to us won't hurt, but to other animals it will. So she actually paralyzed part of my arm for about 8 hours, which as a scientist, I was just like, oh, this is really cool. I can see how her venom is different to the scorpion's venom, which was a lot more painful. I will tell you that right now. So her venom is a lot nicer way to go than the scorpion's venom.
So it's kind of more like the numbing of like a dentist or something then, you know, kind of that feeling of, you know, you're just like, you know, oh, it's, you know, just that nice, gentle.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, when they numb you to fill in your cavities and stuff like that. It's very much like that. And there's no tingling or anything like that. It's just, you sort of feel dead weight. Like your hand is there and you're just like, oh, it's there, but it feels really heavy. That's what it feels like. Whereas opposite side, the scorpion feels like 1,000 pinpricks of static going through your arm and being electrocuted like every 2 minutes.
Wow.
So 0 out of 10, do not recommend the scorpion, but I don't recommend, you know, getting bit by an octopus either. That is my one claim to fame, I guess, that I've been bitten by multiple venomous things. It's not something I want to make a habit. But yeah, so she's been tirelessly doing this now for going on like what?
Since the 1st of April.
Yeah, since the 1st of April.
Wow.
So she's been doing this for a while. Eddie actually got a gin bottle still there. No, the gin bottle's not there. We had a little pygmy octopus that Eddie found in a cleanup. And it just decided to make its home out of this little gin octopus. Octomom was not pleased because everyone found the pygmy octopus a lot cuter than her. Or so she says on her diaries. But the octopus just died after her eggs hatched. It was 19 days? Yeah, it was like, like a couple of weeks after. So doesn't bode well for Octomom when these little guys start to hatch. But they're not going to be much bigger than what you see here. Yeah, basically the size of a grain of rice. So they're absolutely... It's been fascinating to watch them go from just a packet of cells to actual little animals that you can see. So I'll definitely be posting pictures when they come out and as they continue to develop. And not sure what we're going to do with Octomom.
So do you know why it is that she's massaging them? Is there like actual, like, does it help facilitate their growth or clean them?
Yeah. So what she's doing right now with the massaging is, number one, making sure that they don't get dirty, so all that algae doesn't get on them. But also the constant moving through the water means more oxygen flows through it, and that helps with the development of the eggs in the long term. So she's been doing this tirelessly again since the 1st of April. So the poor thing needs a break. But I guess she'll get the break in the eternal bliss of death, which sounds very morbid.
But I mean,
But,
that's just kind
yeah.
of like salmon, though. When they go and lay their eggs, they'll die right there. So I mean, it's not something that's unheard
Oh
of.
yeah, it's
And
not unique to just the octopus. But it is something that a lot of people don't know. So when I always tell them, they're just like, "What? That's awful. That's so sad." And I'm like, "That's the circle of life." And then I start into a little Hakuna Matata number by myself. But yeah, so it's always really interesting to see her. And her story is actually really funny. So we used to have a male octopus that was here, and she actually ripped off, to put it in scientific terms, his reproductive organ and inseminated herself.
oh
So
wow,
she's very much a feminist. I can do it myself. Yeah. Husbands usually
I'll
that bring
leave
their
I'll
wives
leave
are
all
like,
the
"Don't let them
jokes
hear
with that to her Facebook post on that one, so I don't get myself in trouble live on the broadcast.
Yeah, no, they're just, oh man, she's a piece of work, this one, to put it nicely. But yeah, so going from something that you guys barely see, probably see these guys actually quite a lot.
Oh yeah.
So some people actually have these as pets over in the States. Even my own family has one. Shout out to little Rocky, who's not so little anymore. But these guys, the red-eared belly sliders, are actually invasive here in New Zealand. So people will get them as pets, and as you can see, they get pretty big. And so these guys can live 30 to 50 years, and some people just don't want that responsibility, so they'll throw them back out into the waterways. And so these guys, I don't even know how many we have been with us for quite a little bit. And we have a sign over here that kind of gets people thinking, I know it looks really cute in the pet store, but it's going to turn into one of these monsters. Do you really want to be spending like 30 to 50 years taking care of it?
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
know, like, we've heard a lot about, like, the invasive species issues that New Zealand has, like, say with rats and other predatory mammals, but we don't hear too much, at least over here in the States, about other invasive species animals that you have. But is there a lot more than just the invasive predatory mammals that are invasive there that you're having issues with, like the red-eared slider?
Yeah, we do have quite a few fish and stuff that are invasive as well. But I think the main predators or invasive predators that people talk about are the mammals, because you see them all the time. Like, they're on land. You can see the stoats and the possums coming in and killing like a kiwi or a kora, the little penguin. And so that's a little bit easier, whereas these guys, it's a little bit harder to see them and what impact they have, because their impact is a little bit slower than, say, a mammal eating something. Whereas, I mean, look at them. These guys they're on broadcast and their eyes are closed. They're sleeping. So, yeah, that clearly shows you their priorities.
Right.
But it is something to show the kids, because the kids are always like, "Oh my God, turtles!" And it's like, did you know that they last for forever? Which makes them think a little bit about pet decisions, especially the parents, once they know that they live so long. And I mean, look at them. These guys they can get pretty massive.
Mm-hmm.
It makes parents rethink a few things.
Are there native inland turtles and tortoises in New Zealand, or is it all just sea turtles that you would have around there?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I haven't heard of any turtles being native to New Zealand. But I could be totally wrong. That's completely like out of my expertise.
Okay.
So that'd be something that I can get back to you after I've done a little bit of research.
Yeah, because that
It'd
would be
more
interesting to know, like, if, that's maybe one of the reasons why they're having so many issues with these particular turtles being brought in. If there's no inland turtles around, everyone's like, ooh, I want a turtle, and they're bringing them in, and that could be potentially why.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, well, we can just go grab a native one out of the pond out back.
Exactly, yeah. So these guys, along with this tank actually down here, our tropical tank, these are the only ones that are not native to New Zealand that we have in this aquarium. So the cool thing about Island Bay is that we try to only showcase New Zealand animals, kind of bringing the ocean in a less wet environment to the kids. But this is actually from a cinema that we had in the main city area. And the reason we have this here is because of our earthquake in November, shut everything down. And they asked us if we could take care of them. And we're like, sure. And who doesn't love Finding Nemo?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're all, big science geeks when it comes to Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. It's like those are movies I can watch over and over and over again.
Oh, exactly. And we get so many people asking, where's Dory? And it's like, not here. And we just kind of leave it at that. So these guys are our only two that aren't native to New Zealand. But something that is pretty cool in this tank, and it's native to New Zealand, is actually something that you won't see moving around. And so that in there is actually a chimera egg case. And so Eddie's going to show you one out here. So the cool thing about this is that they are... Where's the shark one?
It's gone.
Oh, okay. The cool thing about these ones is that they are they're elephant fish egg cases, which are the chimeras, those cousins that we talked about to the sharks. And these have this very, very odd shape because the mothers actually bury them in the sand. And so then once these animals are ready to go, they'll actually be formed in that little area there. There's a little kind of opening area in this bit that they'll push out and they'll leave. And so we had a few people bring us some egg cases. Yeah, from Niwa, which is, think of it as like the New Zealand Noah.
Okay.
And so Niwa brought them in and tried to see if we could hatch any babies. Unfortunately, we couldn't just because it's really hard, but I did get to do some pretty awesome egg dissections, which one of them, if you follow me on Twitter, you saw that I freaked out about because there was some alien-looking nematode thing in it that was not a cute, adorable baby elephant fish. So with chimeras, a lot of people do eat them. They are labeled certain things in the fish markets like pearlfish, silver trumpeter, so quite a few things like that. Even some sharks are labeled different names as well. So it comes back to sustainable fisheries and knowing what you are eating when it comes to fish as well as any meat, really.
Is that something that is endangered or threatened down in New Zealand?
Not the elephant fish, but other species of chimeras, we know so little about them and their overall population structure that it, in my opinion at least, it would be better just not to eat them. But, if you're catching them as bycatch from fisheries, you might as well utilize them. I should have brought them. Eddie actually brought in a bunch of chimera spines, which were really cool. Oh, do you have some? Oh, Eddie just made my day. Yes. Maybe.
Maybe.
We were very much playing Wolverine the other day with them because we were like, "What's out?"
Oh yeah, you totally got to do that.
Cool. Oh yeah, really cool. So we had that as well.
Yeah. So how many eggs will they actually lay? Is it like one per breeding season? I guess what is the season for egg laying, and how many do they do?
So they'll come in around October to the shallow areas. So the elephant fish are one of the more shallower type of chimeras. They don't go super deep like other ones here. And so they'll come into even shallower areas, almost as shallow as 30 meters. And, they'll lay the eggs. It's usually about 1 or 2 max. And then they'll go back out into the open ocean. And from there, April onwards, you can start finding those egg cases up on the beach when they're empty, when the babies have hatched.
Yeah, that'd be a fun find. That's one of the things I always love doing up here in the Great Lakes is just going up and down the beaches and seeing all the cool stuff you can see. Unfortunately, a lot of it now is the invasive mussels, the zebra and quagga mussels that we have in here in the Great Lakes, but there's still some pretty cool finds that you can get every so often.
Yeah. We've got another actually cool find right here. So that's the red gurnard. The red
Neat.
gurnard is not wanting to cooperate right now. But it is a fish that you can kind of see, almost looks like it has legs.
Oh yeah, yeah, on the front there, yeah.
About it if it would move. Those pectoral fins are actually a beautiful butterfly color, like almost like butterfly wings. Ooh, Eddie has them. Yes, those are chimera spines.
Nice.
See, very much like Wolverine. And so
I think
they
Hugh
differ
Jackman
by
would
how
be
big
jealous
they are.
of that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially because these guys are actually, you can't see it on the camera most likely, but they're serrated as well.
Whoa.
And so Eddie has cleaned them, but they usually have a light skin covering, and they're usually with a little bit of venom and stuff for protection. That's what the chimera's spines are for. Thank you, Eddie.
That is cool. I'm jealous of that right there.
Yep.
So there are times where people get them stuck in their arms, especially fishermen and stuff, and the only way really to get them out is to grab a pair of pliers and actually just pull them out of your arm, and then you have to take yourself up and then get back to work.
Yep.
Wow.
So yeah, this little guy doesn't seem like he wants to open his wings right now, but I'll show you a picture later of what he looks like. He's absolutely beautiful when he likes to move. Okay, that didn't make him actually move, so clearly shaming does not work when it comes to fishes.
That's where you're like, we're broadcasting live to the world. Come on.
I know. Like, I should have come in and had a pep talk. Oh. No. Oh. Please. I should have had a pep talk with them and been like, look, you're all going to be famous if you cooperate. But clearly, we don't want to cooperate. He's just like, I haven't been fed. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, it's still the morning there, so yeah, it's...
Yeah. He hasn't had his coffee. Eddie's going to go get a quick book right now so he can actually show you what it looks like when its wings are open, because it's very pretty.
Nice. Yeah, so, I mean, do they, like, go up into the water column much at all? Or are they pretty much always just on the seafloor there?
They'll usually glide on the bottom on the seafloor, but he does, especially when we have fish bits floating about. Oh, yeah, they go up and down the column like nobody's business. He's one of the more voracious predators in this tank.
Like, how common are they around there? Like, is it something that, you might see, quite commonly as you're in the water, or?
Nah, you most likely won't see them too much, but this is what they look like.
Oh, wow. I was not expecting that at all.
Right? It's beautiful. See, now you don't get the spotlight. No, it's absolutely beautiful. So you can see them for the islands here to be the Three Kings and the Chatham Islands, which is on our eastern bit. So that's the map. It'll be around that bit.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what they look like. Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah.
See, now don't you feel bad that you weren't the star? See if we can shame them. And then these guys are always one of our favorites.
Nice.
So, seahorses. And actually, some of these were just pregnant not too long ago. So for a while, everything in our aquarium was pregnant.
Yeah.
But these are the only seahorses in New Zealand, and they are actually the largest species in the whole entire world.
Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to judge on camera here, but exactly, like, how big are they?
Okay. That's my hand. That's it.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, my hand's not the biggest, but, ooh, Eddie's going to feed them. Oh, see, very voracious hunters, as you can tell. Very slow moving. But, oh, we got one here. Ooh. Oh, so close. But yeah, no, they get quite big. Eddie says 30 centimeters.
Okay.
This one's my favorite because she's white. Like, all the other ones are a yellowish color, but she's this bright white color. That really makes her stand out. Ooh,
does that
yes.
commonly happen, or are they almost always that kind of yellow-based color?
They go from, like, a yellow to white color.
Okay.
So these are pretty normal.
This one up here, he originally came to us completely red, like a very bright red, sort of almost like a fire truck. But as he's been in the tank, he's changed colour to be more like the seaweed that we put in the tanks. So that took about 1.5 years to change.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. 'Cause-
This one in just a few months that I've been here went from being like completely white now to having those little spots that you see.
Neat. Yeah, because like, you know, I think of like frogs and other animals that can change colors, but they usually do it a lot faster. It's interesting that it's that slow change over to match their environment.
Yeah, exactly. No, they're absolutely beautiful. I love watching them float around. And ones that are also beautiful that we'll see if you can name this.
Oh boy, if I had known I was gonna be like, you know, quiz this whole time, I totally would have, you know.
No, I always quiz. I have to quiz.
Oh, it's some sort of lobster or something. It looks like I can't quite make it out 100%. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so these guys are giant lobsters, basically. So in the States, some of them will think of them as crayfish.
Oh, yep.
And a lot of people will call them crayfish, but they are not crayfish. So Eddie's actually going to bring a molt of one of ours that recently molted, so they get big.
Nice. Yeah, that's a lot bigger than the molt of my
Eddie
crayfish
says that it's
just.
tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like...
no, they get quite big. So, I mean, Eddie's a pretty big man in a nice way.
Yeah, like I'll compare.
Yeah, no,
here's my crayfish molt from my burrowing crayfish that just molted last week. Let me see if I can let everyone
really
see as well. Oh wait. Here, can I get it on camera so everyone can see? There. Whoops. I just dropped its head.
Yeah, no, those.
But yeah, I mean, this is how tiny this guy is, and this is a crayfish, and that's yeah.
No, see, our small ones actually are these ones.
Oh, whoa.
So these guys are 3-year-old babies of the red rock lobster, Jarcius edwardsii. And the one that I'm holding there just before, this one's probably sitting around, 25-odd years?
Yeah.
And what's known as biologically immortal, so they don't actually die of old age.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
To put it in perspective, you can get them up to the size of a dive tank, and they're looking at 80 to 100 years old.
Whoa.
See, I didn't even know that. The size of a dive tank, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's what you want, like, when you're swimming by, is one of these guys being the size of a dive tank.
Mm-hmm. Man.
So, yeah, they're absolutely, I mean, they get giant, and kids love seeing them, especially when they get fed, just going at it. I mean, it's nuts.
Yeah, I love watching my crayfish when they feed, because they just like freak out, and watching like all the little mouth parts go and eat. I could watch it all day.
Exactly. And one of the other ones that eats really good are the blue cods. And so this is a small blue cod. Oh, there's the marble fish in the background smiling, photobombing.
Yeah, it totally is. Oh, that's a perfect photo bomb right there.
Oh, it loves being in the shot. Like, that is the biggest attention-seeking fish I think I have ever met. But yeah, so the blue cod is one of the animals here that will eat a lot. And so you can kind of see them. Oh, there's actually two of them right there. So these guys don't look that big. And then we have Boris. Boris can get quite big.
Whoa.
Yeah, Boris is pretty big. Yeah, 53 centimeters is about 1.5 feet. So, I mean, he's big.
Is that about like their max size that they get? Is that about the max size that they get?
I think they get a little bit bigger.
So he can get about the head again bigger.
Yeah, so you can get about a head bigger, basically.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of people want to know how he tastes, and we don't let them eat them. He is a protagonist in the Octomom series.
Okay.
I mean, look at that face. How could you not like that face?
That is adorable.
Exactly. And then the other one, who is, I'm biased, but is my favorite in the whole entire aquarium, is Isabella.
Nice.
She's my baby. She's actually, so I haven't seen her the past couple of weeks, because as I said earlier, or I've actually mentioned a few times on Twitter, so I was in TEDx Wellington, and I talked about sharks, specifically female sharks, and female scientists, and the similarities between the two. And so hopefully that video will be coming out soon. So not only you guys could see it, but I can actually see it, because to be honest, I don't remember what I said. It very much blurred. Everyone was like, oh, I can't wait to see your video. And I'm like, me too, because I only remember the beginning and the end.
Yeah, I've had that happen sometimes with some talks. You just get so excited and you get so into it, and you're at the afterwards, you're like, did that go well? I really don't remember. I think it went fine, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's basically, I'm really hoping I didn't pull any weird faces, because I usually pull some weird faces. So I'm really hoping I didn't, but we'll see. Hopefully that'll come out. But Isabella is one of my favorites. So she's actually grown a little bit since she's gotten here, both lengthwise and a little bit of width size. We do spoil her with some fish and muscle. But the reason why her name is Isabella is actually, you can see it right here. Her scientific name is Cephocilium isabellum. When I told one of the volunteers, yeah, that's why her name is Isabella, they're like, oh, that's so smart. And I'm like, no, that's lazy. I can't remember a bunch of names. Plus, it just fit her perfectly. So she is one of my favorites. She's cool because a lot of people have this preconceived notion of what a shark is. And she is not that preconceived notion. So when I show people her, they're like, that's a shark? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, oh, we thought it was some very flat fish. And it's like, no, she's a shark. She breaks a lot of myths. Like, you don't always have to, well, for some species, you don't always have to be swimming to continuously breathe. We can actually see her there. We can take away the glare. She's actually opening and closing her mouth.
Okay.
And so that is how she's actually pumping water through those little gills. There we go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see them.
And that's how they breathe. They don't have lungs like you or I.
Yeah, her gills aren't very big. Is that just because she's more, stationary in her life? It's not having to be as active a mover as, say, like some of the more, visible sharks that we see in, modern media?
Yeah. So that is one of the reasons. She's also very small as well. So they will kind of grow a little bit with her size, but she's not going to get much bigger.
So I'm just going to send a quick reminder out to everyone who's currently watching right now. If you have any questions for Melissa about the aquarium or life in New Zealand there, definitely feel free to send those in via the integrated chat module here on Periscope, and we'll do our best to get those over to her so she can answer them as she's showcasing all this amazing wildlife that they have there.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to attempt to feed her. She may be really sleepy and not want to eat, but I feel like if I poke her enough times with a fish, she'll eat it. No, we're actually going to... Do you want to do it over here, or do you want to bring the ladder over here?
I just put some blood in the water to help wake her up.
Okay, cool.
So hopefully she'll be able to migrate down to the center. She smells the blood and works towards it. But I've got you 4 bits of fish to try and feed her.
So this is what we're going to be feeding her. She loves her fishy.
Is there any particular species of fish that she prefers, or is it basically just any fish that she'll kind of munch on?
Right now she's not very picky. She doesn't like crab. We noticed that. She does not like crab. But yeah, we feed her mussel and fish. She's fine with that.
She had a bit of lobster, and she loved that.
Oh, did she have a... You have expensive taste, that's why.
Ooh.
You didn't want to be stuck with the crab. You wanted a lobster. That's my
girl after my own heart. I do love those lobsters.
Right?
I have to say, as you were showing the pictures of them earlier, I was like, I wonder how those would taste and how many of those could I eat at once.
I know, with some butter and garlic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they'd be delicious. But I can't say that in front of them because they might retaliate. Oh, no, she's beautiful. But you have to get up. We want to feed you. She's like, She really is a girl after my own heart. She just gets fed. Oh, there's some movement. She just wants to get fed and lie down.
Oh, there she goes.
Yes. Cool. All right, so she's getting up. So Eddie's actually going to take over the camera. You just want to point it in the middle?
Yep.
and I'm gonna freeze.
So the thing that's going to be really fun is this water is probably sitting around 6-7 degrees. So that's about 42 Fahrenheit to give it, in American.
Yeah, that's a little chilly for sure. I've gone and dived in some 40-degree water, and I was like, why don't I have a dry suit on? Because this is too cold for my wetsuit.
Yeah, usually most people diving in Wellington need around 7 mil wetsuits minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's going to be fun is Melissa's got to try and feed Isabel, the carpet shark, when she swims back towards this end. But that fish up there is called a snapper. That's a very popular fish for the sports fishermen. Very good at eating. They can get very big. The blue cod down there, Boris, all of these guys will try and eat the fish out of the grabber before Isabella gets it. Because not only is the shark woken up by the blood, but these guys are as well.
Like, how many times does it normally take you to be able to actually feed Isabella versus, everyone else grabbing it?
Sometimes I can do it first time, like
Right
Melissa
there.
just did right there.
Good girl.
Sometimes I have gone 4 fish and still not been able to feed her because Boris has either snatched it out of her mouth or the snapper have chased them off and things, so
Nice.
it gets very interesting.
There's not a dull time with these guys. That's for sure. Oh, that smells fishy. Yum. Alright, where's my girl? Where's my...
Right down here.
Oh, I did it. There we go. There we go. There we go. Good job. Okay, now let go.
You're going to have to grab it with your hand.
Yeah. There we go. Good job. Yummy. Fishy.
So
like,
you can see her opening and sort of closing her mouth as she's trying to maneuver it so it can swallow it nice and easy straight down the throat.
Nice. Like, how many times do you have to feed her? Like, is it like everyday feeding with her, or is it, how often is she fed?
She's only fed a couple of times a week because sharks traditionally have a very slow metabolism. And some species, like the tiger shark, which is actually Melissa's favorite shark species of all time, they've found them when they're doing dissections and they've had like full fish in the stomach, not even digested or anything like that.
Nice. Yeah, because, like, you always hear the stories of, like, all the stuff that they, swallow, but I'd never thought about, like, because, the things like, metal and stuff that obviously is in their stomachs, but yeah, I never thought about how long it actually takes them to digest just the actual food that you would think that they would go through fairly fast.
Yeah, it is very interesting. See if you can try and feed the snapper, because they're always fun.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna freeze them.
So snapper are very ferocious top predators in New Zealand ecosystems. And they will eat anything from small sharks to lobsters to fish to kinna, the spiky animal, the sea urchin that we had before.
Mm-hmm.
And basically anything they can fit in their mouth.
Wow. Like, how big will they get around New Zealand there?
Some of the snappers, they can get, I'm just trying to remember now. You get out to about 80 to 100 centimeters.
Okay.
So, get out to just over a meter long. And some of them can live up to like 80 years old.
Oh, wow.
At one of the reserves up in Auckland, New Zealand's first marine reserve, the Lai Marine Reserve, which is sort of helped looked after by the Auckland Museum, they've got snapper in there that have learned to not actually go out of the reserve. So you've got like these 50 to 60-year-old snapper that stay in the reserve and never go out, no matter how tempting the fishermen are with their hooks on the edge of it.
Huh, that's interesting that they've been able to ascertain that, like, if they, stay in the reserve, that, they're not gonna meet any harm. That's interesting. Like, I wouldn't think of necessarily fish being intelligent enough to figure that out, or...
Yeah, it's one of the common myths that people go, oh, fish, they have 3-second memories, but no. As soon as I set up the ladder here next to the tank, all the fish migrated down to the end because they have learned to associate the ladder with food.
Okay.
I don't know if you can. The red mochi, that's the one that's got the stripes
Mm-hmm.
heading towards the top. It is learned that the grabber equals food. So whenever I stick the grabber in the water, it will swim directly towards it and try and take anything that's in it.
Nice.
There we go. You got that one?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. All right.
So sometimes Isabella's really good at grabbing the food, but sometimes she'll also grab the grabber, and so that can make it pretty interesting when trying to feed her.
Is she actually strong enough that she could rip the grabber out of your hands if she wanted to, or is she still small enough that that's not an issue?
She's still small enough that it's not an issue, but when she grabs onto it and does the head shake that sharks are famous for, you can feel a good hard pull.
So what other kind of sharks do you guys commonly see in the areas there around Wellington?
So other shark species are types of skull sharks, so they're called rigs, spiny dogfish. These are smaller sharks that will grow to about a maximum of 2 meters long. Other sharks you'll find are the blue shark, which is famous for very, very, very long migrations. You'll find the great white shark has been common around New Zealand as well, especially in Wellington, as it migrates up the North Island on both sides as it heads to the tropics in summer. Other species will be bronze whalers in the summer months. You can get Márquez coming down our way. So we've got a good variety of shark species found in New Zealand waters.
And you can now see her enjoying her meal like any glutton does by breathing and kind of letting the fat pants come out, basically.
I understand that sentiment for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she just had, 3 fishies? That's a lot for her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's basically us right now.
Nice. Yeah, it's great that you guys have that facility there for the people of Wellington, because there's so much amazing wildlife around there so that they can actually showcase it. Because especially with young kids too, like as much as I liked going out and exploring outdoors, it was always nice when I could have a safe place to go, because sometimes some of those tide pool areas are very slippery and it's very easy to injure yourself with that. So
exactly. And us having the aquarium here and also the tides right out there, it kind of does mesh nature and the aquarium together, like nature and education together, which is something that we really strive to do. So that's kind of our main point of being here, is being those guides between nature and education.
Nice. So I guess I'm gonna do a quick shout out to everyone again. If you have any last minute questions and stuff as we're start wrapping up here, definitely get those in if you want them live on the broadcast here. Anything about New Zealand or all the amazing wildlife that you see out there. So I guess one of my questions, final questions would be, what's just the absolute coolest thing that you've been able to do there in New Zealand? I guess with both of you, I guess with the wildlife that you've seen around, what's been that one special memory that you've had being out and about and seeing something?
You've had more nature things. What's your special thing?
What?
Your special thing with nature, the coolest thing you've had to do with nature?
Most likely will be when I do the octopus talks when we have a non-pregnant octopus. We give a talk explaining how the octopus came to us, usually caught by the lobster fishermen, because the octopus is raiding the pots for a free lunch. And then it's just talking, interacting, shaking hands, getting the kids to shake hands with the octopus, and then feeding the octopus and just showing how the octopus will go after the crab, wrap it up, and quickly eat it. And sometimes the octopus will then sit on the side of the tank with the crab wrapped up all in the arms. You can see the crab pressed up against the glass,
being crunched.
Nice.
I think mine would probably have to be bringing Isabella in, just because it was really cool to have her. It sounds awful using her as a tool, as an education tool, but that's what she has kind of provided. She is an ambassador for small sharks and just sharks in general, and being we're not all like the great white shark. Shark Week isn't really a thing here, so a lot of kids don't get to see real sharks. So seeing one that kind of pushes their idea of what a shark actually is, I think, an invaluable lesson.
Yeah, that's surprising since, New Zealand, so much of it is so close to the coastline that they're not getting that exposure, actually getting to see those things in the wild.
It's too cold.
Okay.
Nobody goes into the... No, I'm joking.
If you say so.
It's a different... I think it's a different relationship with the ocean here. Just because, at least in the Wellington area, we don't have traditional beaches. Like, when you think of beaches, or at least when I think of beaches, I think of the Florida beaches where everyone's out there in the water. Here, we don't really have those traditional beaches, and so when you do go out, it's for a very short time with your family, with your dog, and that's basically it. You don't really know what's under the water because nobody's really out there, unless they're taking a course or something, snorkeling. Whereas in the States, I feel like that's really, really common in the beaches is to go snorkeling. Here, I don't really see kids snorkeling. It's mostly, a nice day to go to the beach and hang out, play beach volleyball or something like that, or rugby on the sand, but not so much checking out what's under the waves. So it's really cool what the Bait House Aquarium is doing, and I'm really excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, do you think, I'm just curious, do you think some of it maybe is like the economics? Because we learned recently that there's kids in one of our major cities here in West Michigan. It's less than an hour away from the lake, and they have never been there, and they're 12, 13, 14 years old. They've never been to the lake just because their families aren't able to take them out to the water there. Do you see any of that in New Zealand at all with the different, cities, maybe kids that are more in cities aren't able to get out to the water, or more inland areas aren't able to do that?
Yeah, I do think that is part of it. New Zealand, when you're outside of the city, it's pretty rural. Like, it takes a while to get to places. I mean, I say rural, and, it's not like the States where you don't see anything for 5 hours. You can actually drive from Wellington to Auckland in 8, which is the time it took me to get from Orlando to out of the state of Florida. So that kind of puts it in perspective to you. But I do think that it's not, I don't want to say it's not a priority, but it's just not something that really happens, is that it's almost like a disconnect with nature, even though we have so much nature out here. And so the cool thing about the weekend or the week being free here is that schools get to come in, buses get in of kids that otherwise wouldn't have this experience. And a lot of them do end up doing science experiments too here, really like small scale ones, but really cool ones for them. So I do think it is an economics thing as well, possibly a cultural thing, but I will feel kind of out of place just putting that out there,
right.
And assuming, basically. But from what I've seen, at least, that is my understanding.
Yeah, then it makes it even more important that being able to have, a place like the Bait House Aquarium, that they can get that exposure. Because, there's a lot of students that, I see that they just don't get that experience with science, and they need that, because be able to learn that love of science and the outdoors and wildlife, it really helps, filter through the rest of life, whether they become scientists like us or they're just, at least have an appreciation of it in their lives. It's so important to have.
Agreed. Yeah, I totally agree. So I'm glad that we play even a small part in that. And if we just inspire some of these kids to get out into nature more, we've done our job.
Yep. Exactly. Well, you guys are doing a great job. Are there any last minute things that I'm not thinking of that you want to announce to everybody out there?
No, I think we're basically good. If you want to learn more about the aquarium, just look it up on Facebook. It's the Island Bay Marine Education Center, or the Bait House Aquarium. If you want to learn more about the different species of sharks, including Isabella, I run my own little nonprofit organization called the Fins United Initiative, which features a new chondrichthyon, so a ray, a skate, a shark, or a chimera every week. And this week's is pretty interesting, so you might want to tune in. No spoilers.
Oh, darn it. Dang, I thought we could get one out of you.
So yeah, that's basically it. Thanks so much for everyone who tuned in, and thanks for having us.
No, it was a pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate it. It was an amazing tour of everything. I'm definitely very jealous of what you get to deal with daily there. It's so much fun just to be able to play with all of those amazing creatures and get to see them up close and personal.
Amazing.
So
yeah, they are pretty amazing. I'm very lucky that I get this opportunity and that I get to work with people like this guy who, look, he even has a matching shark hat.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can wear matching shark hats with someone, you know you've got, some winning coworkers there. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, no, I'm very lucky that I've gotten the opportunities that I've gotten. It's been a lot of fun being in New Zealand. So I'm hoping to be here for a bit longer, definitely.
Well, then we'll just have to have you give us some more tours at some point in time. So.
I'm down. I'm totally down.
Great. Well, I want to tell everyone out there, if you didn't get your questions in or have questions later that you're watching this on replay afterwards, please send your Twitter questions in via Melissa's Twitter handle. That's MCMSharksXX. And if you got any questions for Eddie as well, since he was kind enough to join in as well, I'm sure you could send those in to Melissa through her Twitter handle.
Those questions to Eddie.
Okay, great. And so with that, I want to definitely thank Melissa and Eddie for giving us an amazing tour of some of the native and invasive wildlife that they have there down in New Zealand. It was a great time to actually be able to connect all the way across the world here and be able to see some of those things. So if you have any questions for me, definitely feel free to tweet me either at the Scicomm Monday handle or at the Wildlife BioGal handle. And for everyone out there, if you, for next week, we're going to be off because it is a holiday weekend up here in the States. It's 4th of July. So we're going to be, out enjoying some barbecue and stuff with family and friends. And so we're going to allow everyone else to do the same as well. So good food, cookouts, you can't go wrong, right?
I know. So. No, you can't. You can't. Warmth. That's what I'm looking forward to is the warmth.
Yeah, exactly. And then I want to send a quick shout out to our Patreon sponsors. Thank you for helping to make this broadcast possible. And if you are enjoying these broadcasts, please go visit our Patreon site and help us to keep Scicomm Monday going. Any help you can give definitely really does do a lot to be able to keep these broadcasts happening. And with that, I'm going to officially sign out and tell everyone thank you again for tuning in. And like I said earlier, if you've got any questions, definitely send those in via our various chat handles. So until then, until we see you next time, please go out, do some science, have some fun, and we'll see you on the next Scicomm Monday.